right? And I think that's a super critical thing for us to talk about today is, wow, we are in an age where actually our homeowners have a choice of how they power their home. Like, I could just stop there and let you think about that sentence while you eat your eggs here.
What's new in smart power, offering good, better, and best packages in smart power? And we've got a variety of experts up here today to kind of help walk us through all of that. So again, I'm your host, but we have the folks from Leviton with us, right to my immediate right, Rick Forbush. Then we've got Kenny Kingery. He is with a solar installation company dedicated to the new home market. And it's a really neat message because I've been in solar a very long time. Solar installation is a mess in this country. It's kind of an aftermarket thing, high sales costs, don't really understand construction. And when builders need it, and sometimes we need it, it can be a real mess. And IE Construction has really kind of come in and clean that up for us. So he's going to have a real interesting perspective on that. And then I've had the pleasure presenting with Angela before. Angela's with Savant. Of course, is with the world's premier kind of control system technology, been around for decades, but in the last, 5 years at least, has really broadened out into be controlling for the entire smart energy system within a home. And she's going to talk about that and Savant's kind of take on all of that. And then at the other end here, kind of pinning these guys in over here, I've got Roger from Green Brick Home Builders, and he's going to kind of comment and help me give a builder perspective on all this. So as we hear some of this, you can kind of sit here and kind of go, that is a problem. That would help a lot. What would really help it? So he's going to kind of give us a builder perspective as we walk through some of this. Our HiArc sponsor video here for a couple minutes to learn a little bit more about HiArc. I'll go backwards and he'll play the video.
More and more, there are constraints in home building. Home builders in the industry are shifting more towards standardization and less choices. We want to maintain and increase the level of choices and selections that our buyers can choose so that they can personalize and design the dream home that they want. HiArc has allowed us to increase the number of choices and the details to the elevations that we offer. And it produces key building measurements that allows us to have accurate takeoffs for that site-specific plan.
From a sales perspective, our buyers are more informed than ever. They DIY, they watch HGTV, and when they come into our office and we just give them a piece of paper with an elevation rendering on it, they expect so much more. The ability for HiArc to show our plans in 3D, to show the options in real time, and they come out of that appointment with a really clear picture of what that home is going to look like is huge, and something that they've been asking us for years. Getting construction documents that have the right amount of information on them is important. Sometimes we're sending out a document for a plan that has every option listed. But with HiArc, what we can do is we can option enable details for our plans. So when those construction plans are created, they've got the appropriate amount of detail and the right level of granularity on them. The ability for us to bring all of that in-house and have control over our plans and to make changes so quickly to all plans is huge. My brain started being like, oh my gosh, we're saving all of this time and all of this money and we're doing it ourselves. We know what's best and we can make those decisions and changes quicker, and HiArc allows us to do that.
So we at Buffington offer a lot more structural options to our home buyers than many of your average production builders do. With the customizability that HiArc offers, it allows us to diversify our communities and give a more varied look to our houses through our elevations, so that when you're driving through a Buffington Homes community, all of the homes look unique.
I am a nerd for this business. I tell people that all the time. This is what I enjoy. Say we have 4 elevations and we decide this plant's really popular, but we need it's selling so much, we need to add another elevation or we need to update it. Whereas in the past, we would have to send it off to an architect, get it back, re-estimate it. Then you got 5 different people touching it. Whereas with HiArc, we can do that ourselves, redraw it, have it ready. One person double checks it, you're done. We had a meeting last week with our roofer, and he's an old school takeoff guy who does everything with pen and paper. It excited him to see how he could take HiArc and be able to add that option in, and then it would actually do the takeoff and the calculations for him. To see that for a guy that I've known for 10, 15 years and know that he does, he's an old school guy, but to see him excited about it I enjoyed seeing that. It shows how far we've come, and this is where we should have been 20 years ago.
All right, well, thank you for your attention. We're going to get on to today's subject, which is powering the home. And when I look back at electrical power in homes, I was a custom kind of historical remodeler at times, and then we got into the home building business, both production and custom years ago. I kind of look at the electrical side of our home, and the last pivot we really had of any significance was kind of in the 1960s when we invented the thermoelectric circuit breaker. It seemed like, you look at the kind of the transitions that we went through. We had a proliferation in the early 50s of a lot of kind of small electrical devices, which means we needed to put more plugs in the house, right? But at first, that just meant we needed to put more and screw in, fuses down in the basement of our homes. Eventually we started to have air conditioner and more higher power things. Our service panels were upgraded, but mostly it was just about upgrading, the capacity of what we had, not fundamentally changing the electrical system of, residential constructions. And we've kind of changed that now when we started to really rethink the entire concept of what energy in a home means. That can a home actually be an energy generation site? Can we go to distributed power? If we go to distributed power, should we go to storage? If we go to storage, should each home actually be able to arbitrage the energy market and sell it back? And can that actually cover the mortgage cost of a home? The most astonishing thing for me was last summer in Austin, Texas, at least, the Powerwall owners, which have the ability to arbitrage their energy and sell back into the market within Austin, were making $100 a day arbitraging energy back to the market. They would just wait. They would wait until energy got to some crazy peak rate, and they just dump all of their energy into the market at that time. And you think about the economics of housing, we talk so much about affordability. Oh my gosh, it's so hard, it's so hard. But if your home could if we just had one day a month where we could make $100, that could really change the affordability for people to be able to buy our homes. So energy not only today offers convenience, it offers more safety, it offers our control, better lifestyle, lower bills, but potentially it even offers us the ability to afford homes and change our economic relationship with housing. So to me, the future of energy in the home is probably one of the most transitional, interesting, changes to our industry if we can harness it and figure out how to deliver it to consumers. And there's a lot of demand for it. So, the house of the future, we're talking about, energy production, energy storage, energy selling and market arbitrage, right? Along with electrical vehicle support and load balancing, even issues of getting permits. I know in some jurisdictions, because of energy issues, it's hard to get high service panel permits. So how do you provide what customers need if you can't get the service panel permit? But with the smart service panels we have now, right, you can have smaller service panel permits and it will automatically manage that in the back end so that you can still get permits for buildings. So all kinds of neat advancements. These folks up here are going to tell you more about it. Angela Larson, Savant Homes, fantastic presenter, great company. Take it away.
All right. Well, I really appreciate it. And we wanted to really kind of drive home today, and I think Tim laid the foundation just like beautifully, is as we look at the future of an intelligent home, you have to have energy management, smart power, put any label on it that you want, be very foundational, right? That is critical. So, we've looked at kind of that evolution of the smart home over the last 3 decades, right? And every single one of us started thinking about a smart home from the perspective of entertainment. And entertainment was really the smart home, right? Oh, can I listen to audio? Can I have video, zones? Can I do different things with my entertainment experience? And now we're kind of in the wave right now that you're all living through real time is what is happening with the technology in the lighting space. And that technology in the lighting space is driving a whole different type of controls that you're dealing with right now, right? We used to spend all of our time, right? I'm looking at you. We used to spend all of our time turning lights on, turning lights off, and sometimes we even dimmed them. It was very exciting, right? So we turn them on, we turn them off, we did some dimming. It was very exciting. We did that for decades, you guys. I mean, just literally
Until
decades.
LED bulbs came
Yeah.
along, and then we just flickered them.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, then we did that for a while.
Right,
Okay, so
yeah.
we did that for a while. But, and now here we are, and you think about where we are today, and you're like, wow, now we're actually expecting our controls platform to control the color of white light that is being emitted, in that kitchen, in that space. We're talking about mood lighting and entertainment lighting. We're talking about different types of ways that people live and
Well,
healthy living.
Angela, there's so many studies coming out talking about wavelength effect on health, the ability to improve sleep outcomes, improve health. And of course, none of this is in a used home. A used home has a bulb. The bulb has a temperature. It is what it is. It's not going to change over the day. So the ability to improve health outcomes, right, is part of this equation as well. And it all boils down to how do we control the home and the energy in the home and everything the energy in the home powers.
Well, absolutely. And so, I would say that's like, if we had to put the stake here, that's where we are now. You should be thinking about all those different things in your current builds and what you're doing today. And as we're here with the what's next,
What's next?
I love our what's next, right? We have to look at that sort of controls expansion into, okay, now we have to look at, and I'm going to use the term resource management. Okay, now we're in the resource management phase because now we're helping to have our homeowners deal with, okay, these are the resources you have available to you. We're talking energy today, and how do we help you maximize those resources, be profitable from those, all the different things that kind of we laid out. So think about that as like, that's where we're in today as we think about kind of this space. And that's how Savant thinks about it from our perspective. I think everybody probably has a right strategy for your homeowners, right? Depending on the type of builder that you are and where you are, there is a right strategy for everyone. And that's kind of what I thought I would kind of talk about because it's really all about education, right? And what are the right kind of different areas that you can think about from a smart power perspective, right? So I'll talk about just everything in the spirit of education this morning, right? And how really did we start in the, I'll say, intelligent power space, right? There's a couple of the things on this list, right? The first thing that you think about and are high usage today are, we use the term UPS, right? Or this power supply, this backup power supply. And a lot of the time you can think of this from an application perspective. How is this used? Well, this is typically used, as a backup power supply for some type of really important piece of equipment, okay? Some piece of equipment that you want to make sure has uninterrupted power, hence the name. So these are, important things. A lot of the times we think about these as the transition to the generator kicking on. Okay, that's a lot of the time how we think about these devices. Okay, we've got a loss of grid power. We've got the generator kicking on, and that time lag between those things happening. This sensitive equipment or this important equipment, I want to make sure I keep power to. Okay, that is a part of a power strategy. Okay, as we think about different types of power.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I think it gets missed a lot. I think people jump from I have a home that's connected to the grid to I'm going to buy a generator or I'm going to have a backup battery. But there is something in the middle of that, which is UPS. And it's not UPS necessarily for the whole home because not everything in the home cares about fluctuations or conditioning of power. But we do have extremely sensitive, very valuable components in a home, whether it be key entertainment pieces of equipment or computer pieces of equipment. Even some of our cooking appliances now, right, are very subject to power condition issues. So it's an interesting to bring that up because I don't think that's being spoken of very much in a builder strategy. The UPS, that's like something you go buy at
Aftermarket.
at Best Buy or something, and you stick it someplace in the home. But that's an ugly, cumbersome, and not very complete solution to the problem.
Well, I think it is, and as you like led us to our next discussion, which is you're starting to see now, those UPSs, and power conditioning start to live together. And it's like, well, what is power conditioning, right? Well, power conditioning is really there, and I'm going to say to clean up the power, that dirty power, if you will, to clean up that dirty power. So one of the things we're also experiencing on the grid is just surges and dips and all kinds of things happening to make that power in the home be unstable, right? And so, hey, we didn't used to notice that as much, but we're noticing that more and more, right? And as you say, it really messes with the technology in our homes to not have kind of that clean or stable throughout.
Yeah, in an analog world where you have tungsten light bulbs and you have, old clocks that run on 60 hertz and things like that, it kind of doesn't matter, right? But today, everything has a microchip in it, and a microchip is very subject to fluctuations in power.
It is, and this, this is an important part of, kind of our strategy. And I go all the way down through this list, and I won't read them all to you, but even just rebooting electrical devices becomes part of your power strategy. Okay, we think of those as those PDUs, or those power distribution units, and you say, well, what the heck are those for? Has anybody ever told you, well, why don't you reboot your Apple TV and see if it works now? like that's your whole strategy, right? Like reboot it and see if it works now, right? That is a power strategy, as we look at all these different things of how to manage some of those power things. So the things I look at on this list as I kind of think about all the different pieces that we could talk about this morning, I think these are all very targeted, right? These are all solutions targeted at a very specific kind of application. I'm protecting those components. I'm cleaning the power. Even a generator, I think of as a very targeted solution, right? I am going to back up this panel of pieces, right? And the important things to me that I want to make sure have backup, right, is where a generator fits into the piece, right? These are all like targeted solutions that help me kind of in my
a lot of homeowners really blow it there. They think they're going to go buy a generator at Home Depot, and they just plug it in randomly to their home. Generators are really dirty power, and those kind of generators, right, can generate really dirty power. And the surge of plugging it in can destroy everything in your house. Yeah, so it's like, great, your power is down, you buy a generator, you put it in, now everything's broken. Now when the power comes on, nothing works either. So, it can be a real challenge. And I think if we can start to communicate this to homeowners and understand why they really need an engineered power system rather than they're going to go buy aftermarket stuff and kind of deal with this, then we have an opportunity to really sell value against a used home market.
Well, and I think you're right. And that really leads us into kind of where I think we are and should be going today, which is, hey, there are these targeted solutions. A lot of them are aftermarket. A lot of them get thought about when a problem arises. Oh, I should buy a generator, or, whatever is happening in the space. I think we're in now the space of what is really a more foundational or infrastructure in the home to think about power. That's kind of where I think we are today, is like, yes, there have long, for decades, been these targeted solutions for these problem areas, but now I think we're in kind of this more foundational infrastructure phase of the smart power phase. So I think you think about this in two ways, right? If you take nothing else away, I think what you should take away from this kind of a conference is that you need to be looking at your electrical panel and understanding if you have intelligence inside that electrical panel. Okay, I'm going to be passionate.
Kind of starts there.
That's where it starts, right? Okay, we're going to both be passionate that whatever solution you decide to use one. Like, I'm going to say, like, and I think that is a really key area to start. And if that is where you're thinking about, what does that mean? Why do I care? You have to have some knowledge and intelligence about the circuits inside that panel, okay? You have to be able to manage them or control them as you start to see this. And so you think, okay, why does it matter? There's a lot of different ways that being able to manage the circuits matter. And I'm going to use a couple of different examples, right? One is to do kind of that traditional thing that you hear about, which is shedding loads. Okay. I'm in a scenario where I've maybe transitioned to generator power, or I've maybe transitioned to a different type of power in the home, and I want to reduce the loads that are currently active in the home. So shedding means I'm going to turn them off. Okay. Now, Savant, as Tim said, base control system. We'd like to do that automatically for you, so you don't have to think about it, right? But hey, we're going to shed some of that unnecessary power usage. We're going to elongate that generator. We're going to elongate that battery. We're going to make that last longer. Okay, that's a very basic, like, okay, I'm going to have intelligence in the panel. That's going to help me do that. That's great. You're also going to see intelligence in the panel being, I think, very important, as Tim said, to the future of really electrical service, right? And anybody building right now is taking a 200 amp service home and you're making it a 400 amp service home. And anybody building a 400 amp service home is making it a 600 amp service, right? That is how we're solving the problem of electrification right now.
Give it more.
Just give it more, right? That is literally what's happening in the market space right now. And I'm going to just argue that that's not sustainable.
Well, there's also a cascade of cost with that, right? When you go from 2 to 3 or 3, to 4, whatever, there's a cascade of cost, right? In copper and wiring and everything throughout the entire home, where if you could live with the 200 that was smartly managed, you could actually then reduce the whole cost of the home.
Reduce the whole cost.
Even though it operates like a 300, watt service, right? But
well, and I think that's exactly important. So you think about this intelligence inside these panels. Think about them as like I think about them as like a do not exceed. Okay, we can manage this home as if it needs 200 amps of service, right? And how do we do that? Well, we're going to not allow the electric vehicle to charge at the same time that the dryer is running. Okay, whatever basic modes that you're using there, so that we can keep this service level at something reasonable.
right, during the surge of your oven being turned on, the water heater is not going to turn on at the same time if you have electric water heater, but it will turn on, right? It will just be delayed slightly.
And the homeowner will not notice it. This is not, right? This is a way to manage. So I think, you look at this intelligence in the panel and you look at all the different applications that intelligence has, and it's vast, right? It allows us to do all kinds of different decision making and intelligence in the home. And so we think that's a really critical component of your foundational or infrastructure type strategy, okay? And then you also have, and I'm just going to back up on the slide a little bit, you have your power sources, right? And I think that's a super critical thing for us to talk about today is, wow, we are in an age where actually our homeowners have a choice of how they power their home. Like, I could just stop there and let you think about that sentence while you eat your eggs here. So I'm going to just go out on a limb and say that in the last decade or so, okay, we have gone from, you have one choice of how to power your home. Either the grid is present and active or it is not. Okay, that was pretty much the situation. Okay, it was present and active or it is not. Then you started to see adoption, particularly in luxury, and it's come down dramatically, of some kind of emergency or backup solution for power. Okay, the grid has gone down, and now I want some kind of emergency backup, right? We see this in all of our hospitals and all of our different, places where we're dealing with large format. Okay, we see this all over the place where you see these large generators, and it's become more common in the residential space as well. So we've had an event, and now we have this backup power. It's expensive. Yep. It's expensive to run it. Takes a lot of maintenance. There's a lot going on to do it, but I feel better because I have this emergency.
But that's
solution.
where that's where batteries come in, right? It takes backup generators.
Hey, look,
They're easy. I have one.
Yeah, hang on, right? They have their place, right? But now, okay, so if you were counting, right, well, that's two different sources of power to the home. And now we've got our solar input, right, where we're actually producing power locally and continuously inside that home. Okay, so that is, kind of the next thing that we now have available to people is, oh, you want to be able to produce power in the home and use that power? That is a next way that I'm choosing to invest and be able to power the home. And then we're sitting at the storage space, which is like, oh, I'm producing that power. Maybe I should hang on to it. Maybe I shouldn't push it all back to the grid, right? Maybe that's not what I should be doing with this investment. Maybe I should be storing some of it. And I'm either storing it for usage in my own space, or Tim said, I'm storing it to push to the grid when it's most valuable to me to do that for resource management, right? I'm storing it for a reason. So I think you're now looking at, wow, those are 4 different choices that a homeowner can make of how to power their home. We have to help them manage that, because otherwise, how are they figuring out how to use what source at what time of day, right? Maybe your time of use changes in your market and power becomes more or less expensive based on time of day. There's all kinds of different reasons that you're looking at, why would I switch the sources of power to the home? And I would really think of that battery, and I think this is how I think of it as we sit here, is your emergency generator is there for an event. It's there for
Or because of an event.
Or because of an event. Okay, you're not switching to generator power just because it seems like a good idea, or you want to, or hey, we should do this every night at 5 o'clock. That is not what you're doing, all right? But a battery and solar are meant to be sort of integrated into the daily cycle of that home. Right? I think that's where we're at. It's meant to be part of the daily, think of it as like the daily driver. It's meant to be an integrated part of the strategy. It's not meant to sit out in the backyard, somewhere off to the side of the house and hopefully you never need it. It's meant to be part of the story.
Right, but it also creates the need then for an intelligent agent, right? To sit there and go, when do I want to pull from the grid? When do I want to sell to the grid? Yeah. For example, if your battery is at 50% charge, it's been a cloudy day, whatever, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and the cost of electricity drops down to 3 cents a kilowatt hour because the utility has no place to dump it, then fill up your battery, because tomorrow you're going to sell it at $8 kilowatt at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. It should just be automatic, and it's harvesting, and we all become energy arbitrage, experts, but we don't have to do anything. We're just getting checks.
Yeah, I think you're reading my mail.
Uh-oh.
So reactionary, because we are reactionary.
No, I am, but I shared it with you.
Oh, good, perfect. Yes, yeah. Well, after Snowmageddon or Snowpocalypse, the great words that have been assigned to the event we had in Texas a few years ago, and we were without power for 4.5 days, and it was 20 degrees outside. And we would always routinely have fluctuating power anyway. So that was the final nail in the coffin to get a generator, whole home generator. Didn't want a load shed. Tack a few more $1,000s on it, put this big box on the outside of the house. But I guess the good and bad thing, Murphy's Law, there's been no power outage since. So now I've got this box sitting out there.
The neat part is there will be as soon as that generator no longer functions.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah.
That's nice.
And just some color on what you're talking about. And you teased this earlier, is, what's the old saying? Just because you can't do everything doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. Right. And that's the real message for me, for all of us, is to start somewhere. Because you can't sit down and create this grandiose plan, right, with a 5-10 year roadmap. That's great, but at least take bite-sized pieces and start doing things. And know your environment, because we run into areas, well, even my house, we're in a co-op. There is no arbitrage. You can't sell anything back. So you run into areas like that. So that piece may not work in all instances, but the other certainly can, especially, and I'm glad you focused and pointed out, both of you, that power is dirty and fluctuating. It flows just like water, and it fluctuates. It's not a constant by any stretch, and people don't realize it until you start getting really high-tech and microchipped items, and that's when it rears its head.
It rears its head, right? And how many of us have sat and been really frustrated that, I paid a home technology, professional or integrator to bring controls into my luxury construction project, and it never works, right? Never works, right? Well, hey, you got, there's a lot of reasons and they're hard to identify.
So
very hard to identify.
I do think one thing that needs to be on our radar, though, is while individuals can't sell power back to like a co-op and stuff like that, that co-op is buying power all the time from other jurisdictions. Every day, right? It's
Called wheeling.
right. It has a certain amount of its own, probably, right, generating capacity. It has long contracts with other generating capacity. And when it overcomes that, it goes to the spot market and buys more. Now, it doesn't want to go to your address and buy your 1 kilowatt because that's a hassle. So this idea of EPP, power providers, I think is one of the biggest opportunities for home builders of your size. Meaning if you actually have a community, right? If you're building one home,
Yes.
it doesn't help,
Right.
right? But if you're building communities and you say, look, we're gonna build 100 homes in this community, the builder can become the EPP. The builder can provide the software then to all of the homes, and each homeowner can decide if they want to participate or not, right? So you're not forcing a homeowner to do anything, but the builder then makes revenue for as long as those homes ever exist. And it becomes lifetime revenue because you're arbitraging the power back and forth, and your homeowners love you because they're getting a check.
Sure.
And that fundamentally changes the economics of home building. You could get to the point that says, I want to build homes just because I want to be the EPP for all of these homes, and I'm going to give the homes away at cost because I want 10,000 homes that I'm going to be sitting here for 100 years arbitraging the energy market for those homes, and I have control over all of that. So it is fundamentally a change to the environment. And for the first time this year, I've actually seen third-party companies now launching software to enable builders to do that. So you can now get the software, own it. You can go into the business tomorrow as a builder. And that fundamentally changes the equation, I think, for how active builders should be about thinking about. Because until this, it's all about, I got to add this and I got to add that, and it's more costs here and it's more costs there, and I already have problems with affordability. This is about potentially making more money for the builder and making more money for the homeowner. And that's a part of the equation that just has not been available to anybody until this year. So,
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, these things, like, hopefully, like, it blows your mind as what is available as we look into that kind of future, right? And so I'm going to just kind of get through, like, and I think it's really important, is like, how do we get started, right? Like you said, just start somewhere.
all right, Angela, we got to hurry
Right?
because
Yep.
we
So
got to get
just
to how we're going to
start
get this
doing it.
power in the home here in a
Right?
second, okay?
That's my point. Like, let's just start somewhere, right? So I'm going to say, like, first thing, you should identify your targeted power needs. We talked about those. That's good. You should think about those. You should think about, hey, what is my comprehensive whole home strategy, right? Where are these areas where I can have, how do I get started? What do I think about, right? And I'm going to say, as you look at this graphic, I want you to think about that center image, and I want you to think about that smart panel technology as your first place to get started, right? And that's going to be really critical. And what's that going to give you, right? It's going to give you all of this great stuff that you see on the screen here, right? Oh, I'm going to be able to understand consumption in different ways. I'm going to be understand that history of that consumption. I'm going to be able to understand all kinds of different things about the home. I'm going to be able to be notified that there was some specific event that makes no sense in this home. Why did we have a breaker trip here? Why is this thing running 24 hours a day when it shouldn't be, or whatever? You're going to start to see those types of insights if you can understand intelligence at the circuit level. So that's going to be really important. So I'm going to get to my how do I get started piece here, which is, what does this look like just to have a very simple package for my home? So I'm going to say, look, I'm going to always say, you're going to have some kind of brain. You're going to have some type of intelligence. Okay. We got that there at the top, right? I've got a couple of different things where it's like, hey, you should really think about lighting as part of an environmental lighting and power story, right? Okay. So look at a couple different things you can do in the lighting and that wellness space. Okay. Maybe you should have downlights in the great room or primary suite that can tune to different white levels. So, okay, it's evening time. This bedroom should be a lot warmer when they walk into the primary suite. Okay, maybe that's all you get started with. You just get started with some very simple areas there. Okay, and then you get started with controlling a couple of different circuits, right? Maybe, like in this case, I just had, hey, take 4 of your highest use circuits, right? When I say highest use, what's consuming the most power? You all know what that is. I don't have to tell you what that is. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's not those LED downlights. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's not that, right? So it's all the things Tim said, right? What if we just had control and management of 4 to 6 circuits, right? Does that look like something we could get started with our homeowners on?
Which
I
which
think it
could reduce the cost of the entire electrical system that you're putting into the home.
Absolutely.
Because you're going down the service level from 150 to 100 or 200 to what, you're
I'm
dropping.
managing those big, large items that are consuming the most power, right? I would guess the 4 to 6 main use circuits are probably 80% of the power. Okay,
Yeah.
right? So that's where we are, and that's what I think, hey, that you could get started with that. And then I think, my second sort of package idea is, okay, we start adding things like solar, battery storage, and other things, right? Now we get other really cool features, right? Now we start to see source selection of different types of power in the home. We start to see all these different other pieces that you start to see. We can decision make, we can do all these pieces
I think
here.
as builders become EPPs, they're going to put batteries in home even if they don't put solar in home.
Oh,
Because you're going to be able to buy electricity, right, at periods of time, and then you're going to be able to sell it back at higher periods of time. You're just going to use the battery as a backup, and you're going to fill it up from the grid. You don't, today we always think, oh, you have solar, and then you have a battery, then you have this, but it is when you start moving to the EPP mode, you don't care about that. You fill up batteries at 11 or 12 or 13 cents a kilowatt hour, and you sell it at $8 a kilowatt hour. There's a lot of money to be made in that.
no, absolutely. So think of these kinds of packages, and I just gave you different examples, right? These are different ideas of different types of price points that you could look at, okay? So now I'm looking at, okay, now I want to control more of those circuits. I want to control more of that lighting. I want to add some kind of battery storage and inverter to deal with the solar connection there, right? Now I'm kind of in this sweet spot. And so I think really the challenge, and you said it right? How do I get started? And I think just get started, right, is really the message I would have. So
All
a
right.
couple of ideas.
All right, so
Okay.
Kenny's going to talk about how we're going to put solar on
Yeah.
homes and not deal with what I call the clown car market.
Yes.
The clown car market of the solar integrators that are out there trying to sell all the used homes solar, and 80% of their costs are sales and marketing costs. That's not an effective supply chain for builders. IE came to the market to change all of that. So tell us the story.
Well, we call them solar bros.
Oh, solar bros. I got the wrong term.
You know, it's the-
I'll start using
It's
that.
the white collar looking guy, that has the straight build hat, and he's knocking on your door, and he's, trying to bug the hell out of you guys and tell you all the cool things about solar, and then sell it to you at this massive premium so he can pay for his BMW. Like that's what the market has basically started out doing, until this builder market really started to thrive. And that's where, the last 10 years, that's where we've been really pushing, is to be more of a trade partner and not just a retail solar market, and really work with you guys and integrate with your trades, understand your trades, understand how to talk to your trades, and also understand when to come in to help you guys install at the right time, make the product look good. And really, we always just say make it not suck, and I'll say that in my slide. Just make solar not suck, because everything these guys are talking about, solar and batteries and energy storage and even EV, all of that helps with the arbitrage and with cycling clean power. And there's a way to do it the right way, and then there's definitely a way to do it the wrong way, which is probably what most people that have attempted solar on their new homes has ran into. So yeah, so renewable energy as a revenue source, like that's a common theme amongst everything right now. Is solar is great, it looks cool, or it doesn't even matter. Really now it's becoming more of a revenue stream for your end user and or for you guys, as we're talking about EPPs and even VPPs. And really, yeah, there's an outdated grid. It is everything that Angela was showing on her screens. There's multiple cell phones and stuff, and that's like 2 people in a house right now. They've got like 5 cell phones in a house, and everyone's just straining the grid, pulling from the grid. Everything is pulling power. Everyone has multiple things in the house right now. They're just constantly pulling power. Certain states are basically making all houses be only electric. So there's just this constant strain on the grid. And solar and batteries right now is the thing that can help really reduce that strain. Again, my overarching theme is always going to be, there is the right way to do it to help you guys actually make a profit off of that. So
I tell you, the scariest thing to me is I study the electric market a lot because I've been in the solar industry a long time. And right now with cryptocurrency and AI and the energy demands and how they are increasing energy demands by the month. Okay, you're just watching this energy demand, and you look at the excess capacity of the U.S. grid, and every month the excess capacity is getting smaller and smaller, and their ability to add demand far outpaces our ability to add new capacity. And there's a crossover point where they will consume 100% of all the power in the United States.
Mhm.
And we don't know yet how we're going to fill that void. So this issue of needing generation power at the home level is going to become more and more critical as we move forward. The brownouts, the blackouts, the quality of the power, the cost of energy is going to start to drive affordability in housing eventually, right? Because you got to pay your utility bills.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and we're, one of the big sins of the building industry is we're slow to change, digging our heels, and we're not going to do something until forced, usually by code, regulation, so forth. And that makes it very difficult. I will say, though, that as we watch code cycles, things start out in appendices and then make their way into thou shalts by the AHJ. So when you start seeing wind and solar ready clauses and things like that show up in the appendices, well, it's coming either in the 27 or the 30, but we're all going to be there. So it's going to be mandated. It's a matter of getting in front of it before it is, so you're not reacting. But we're all very reactionary in this industry. It's sales, starts, closings. What else is there? I got to focus on those three things. I would just a quick comment. I would say either dedicate somebody in house, a head count, to go down this path, research, have conversations with folks like this, or an outside consultant. Don't take somebody on your staff and allocate, okay, for 10 hours a week, I want you to kind of research this stuff. They're going to take on more and more tasks. That's going to get pushed to the back burner. It's not going to happen. So that'd be my piece of advice. Dedicate it.
Yeah, part of what I'll talk about is the right education to the right portion of your staff that can help, implement this strategy into your guys' business model. So, three main problems that you guys have probably ran into right away: lack of education. So, and understanding how to monetize solar and storage, and or just understanding the way that solar and storage will differentiate your homes. I hear this as we do these events all the time is we need something that helps us differentiate in our market. And glass on the roof is the first thing people are going to see as they drive up to a home, right? And so it definitely is a key differentiator. Another thing a common thing that we always talk about is, California has been, the front runner in really throwing solar and energy storage into the home market. And a lot of those people are moving out of California. California is massively overpopulated. A lot of people leave California and go to the Midwest and go to the South and things like that.
No, they all come to Texas. Come on,
they're all going to
come to Texas.
We got them all.
We don't allow them in South Dakota. We push them to Texas. You guys, it's cold here. Go south. They only have one snow every 10 years. So you guys
That's about right.
But really, we hear this a lot, and Californians, no matter where they're moving to, that everyone wants something to look like home, and solar on houses in California is almost every other house. And so a key differentiator is definitely energy storage and solar on a house that helps people that are moving from states where this is already commonplace to really see your guys' home and your guys' communities look like their home already. But education is huge. You definitely need to find the right people that are going to educate you guys and not just try and make money off of you. So ineffective sales implementation and strategies. Again, get it with the right person that can really help you guys understand how to implement this into your guys' communities. And knowing how to include solar energy storage trade partners, not just the solar bros that we were joking about. There's a lot of people that can install solar, but understanding how to install solar along with your guys' build schedule is very important. First major thing to understand, and when we're dissecting these problems, is you guys have all talked to probably a residential retro solar and battery installer, and they're all there to their real goal is to get to your guys' home buyer most of the time. And we don't want to do that. We just want to help you guys differentiate yourselves from the market and understand how to really install solar and batteries and make money off of it and or be different. So first major thing to understand, it's a different installation process. For someone like us that is understanding your trade and understanding your guys' schedule, we're going to sit down with you guys. We're going to go into your plan set. We are going to work with you on when we need to be out there for rough-in and when we need to be out there for trim to make sure that everything looks clean, everything goes smooth, and that we work with all of your guys' trades to make sure everyone knows what the scope of work needs to be.
Well, the first thing is you're going to work with their plan set to come up with standard solutions for all of their plans.
Yep.
Right. So there's a standard solution so that you can integrate into their trades, right? Which is really different than kind of a traditional solar guy that says, well, I'll be out and take a look at it. Yeah. No, you.
Oh, and yeah, let me throw 97 panels up there and
Yeah.
make it look like a jack-o'-lantern with, all the, like, we just want it to look clean, simple, and standard for you guys.
Right.
So it's a different cost structure. Again, there is two ways that solar is sold. There is the retail market where there's a high premium, so some guy can get a big commission. And then there's the production market where, we're making a little bit of money, you guys are making a little bit of money, it goes into the home and the homeowner's happy. The third thing, the right installation partners. Very key theme here is find the right people that know what they're talking about. And there is us out there. It's not just us that, everybody, there is really good builder installers that are built for production and not just for each home every single day that is retro, poking holes in walls and stuff like that. So solar when done wrong, if you guys have ever attempted it and you have a bad install partner, it is nothing but a headache. And the worst thing that you guys can have happen is schedule gets messed up. But even still, you don't know if it's done wrong, right? Like, you guys are never going to know until somebody buys your house and moves into that house and then is calling you nonstop because they thought that this thing was supposed to work, it was supposed to save them money, it's supposed to do all this stuff because they're thinking that, it should be this massive savings and all this stuff. And it's like, well, maybe just they weren't educated or the system's just completely installed wrong. And then it's costing you guys more money. It's causing you guys a headache. We don't want any of that. We want to make sure it's done right. We want to test it before anybody ever moves in. And then we want to set the right expectations that you guys can help educate your guys as homeowners on. So solar when done right, looks clean. The energy storage and the solar all work cohesively together. We're arbitraging to the grid. We're saving money. We're sending power back out. It's there's a total way to do this right and be a key differentiator in the market.
I think solar's, I've been fortunate. I haven't paid a utility bill in over a decade. So I'm a pretty big fan. But it's amazing how little knowledge there is about solar. If you install a single inverter and you have partial shading on your panels, then you lose those panels.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that. And if you lose those panels, that means it's not really a 9 kilowatt system. It's really a 3 kilowatt system, right? And you're not going to get that savings. Now you can go to microinverters. You can do other things. You can do panel by panel. There's all kinds of strategies to make sure that you're going to get the most out of that specific location and that specific install. And I think a lot of that is lost on the consumer and the builder today. They just assume you put panels on the roof and you're going to get power out of them.
Well, definitely, and lot orientation, like that's a big one too. So we work with your entire plan set early, so everyone understands what the panels are going to look like, where they need to go to maximize all the energy that they can produce per home. So, again, residential installation pricing, you guys have probably gotten the wrong price many times for how to install solar, and it takes you out of the market. Like building a home. And, don't get mad at me for saying this, but your guys' whole goal is to do this for as little money as possible, right? And so when someone comes out and throws $35,000 in your face and says, don't worry, it's going to help you sell this home, you guys are like, well, I just shrunk my buyer pool by a massive percentage, which is no good, right? And so we want to make sure we avoid all of that as we educate you guys. They also don't understand how to blend trades, right? We want to work with your EC. We want to work with your roofer. Especially the roofing side. Everyone is very touchy about the roofing side and holes and leaks and getting calls down the road. We want to work with those trades so that way warranties stay intact and we're out there at the right time to make sure that when the roofer comes out, they can flash around the plumbing that needs to go up through the roof. And then there's no headaches. And not only that, if there ever is the issue, it is construction. So if there ever is the issue, you guys have to be able to trust somebody that's going to be able to speak the language with your roofer and understand where the issue is, whether it's on their side of the roof or our side of the roof, and fix it without you guys having to be the middleman and fighting people nonstop. So it's a very key part of what we want to do when we work with the builders is just work with your trades and not get a bunch of calls from you guys, because usually if you're talking to your trades, they're doing something wrong, I always assume. So, we just want to blend in, they usually, you're going to hear this a lot, those guys want to come back and knock the door and talk to your homeowner. We don't. We just want to make sure the system works for them and then move on and go to your next set of homes to install solar on. Again, your sales staff's probably not educated the right way. We'll come sit with you. Good companies will come sit with your guys' sales staff. They'll go into your model homes and they'll help everyone understand the technology that's going to the house, whether it be a microinverter or if it ends up being a string inverter. Everyone needs to really understand the what ifs as someone moves into that home and how to operate the system. Let's help you do it the right way. Let's help you price it the right way. Let's teach you how to monetize it. And start using all the cool things that Angela was talking about inside that house, basically.
Yeah. So I think the key things is you really need to find solar contractors that specialize in new construction rather than, because it is a very different market. The economics are crazy different. But even if it wasn't economics, it's about how you work with trades and how you fit into your schedules and how you don't disrupt the build cycle.
Yep.
All of those kinds of issues.
Absolutely.
All right.
Question.
You're going to take it home for us.
All right.
What do you think of that?
Let's do it. Let's do
Okay.
this. Yeah, part of me wants to say, right?
Oh,
That's
well,
what they
okay.
said. That's what they said. Is that it? Are we
It's
all set?
cocktail hour?
There you go.
How awesome.
Is it 12 o'clock somewhere? No. It's it's really interesting stuff. And I think Angela, you did a great job just introducing kind of the overall message. It's a strong way to say it, but what everybody's sort of facing out there, right? With I always think back to, I live in New England, which you might be able to tell as I speak more, but I think back to the utility at home, decades ago, the commercial on TV was flip the switch and we're there. That was the whole thing they did. But yeah, there's a lot behind it and a lot for, you folks to think about as builders. And, you get a little bit bogged down with people telling you should be thinking about, you should be thinking about, you should be thinking about, and then you think about when you have to your point, which I think, it does make a lot of sense. So, anybody at this table, we're certainly here to help you get started, with that mindset and when it comes to Leviton and our role in that. But again, getting in that mindset and the big message is, I understand, for you folks, is I understand I need to think about this, but how do I do it? And hopefully you get some takeaways with regard to that today. And it gives you that first step and not sort of that daunting thought of how do I do this? How do I do this cost effectively? Who do I talk to? And all those sorts of things.
Yeah, how to navigate the landscape, but you just touched on it there of cost. So we're all, regardless of industry, very sensitive to cost of anything for the most part, especially in the building community. If we know that for every $1,000 we increase the price of a home, we price out 100,000 people. Well, right now, everybody, because of interest rates and tariffs and variety, the list is long. Everybody's trying to save $50, $100. How can we pull more out of the house? So the message from anybody's got to be value add. When you're talking to us, we've got to know how this is going to play, how it's going to communicate, how it's going to be value add without driving up my cost. Maybe a little, sure, I can do that if I can sell the value piece,
Right.
and offset.
Offset either with income or with value.
Yes.
Got to be something.
No question. Yep. Great point. And, for those that don't know Leviton or who we are, I'll just touch on real quick. Leviton's still a privately held company, probably the most recognizable brand out there when it comes to electrical devices and so forth. We've been around since 1906. Kind of the funny thing we say is that this isn't our first swing at electrification. I mean, we were at this back in the turn of the century, and there was some meetings that I wasn't in back then, but I feel like I might have been at times. But it's just we've been you need to start thinking about. We've been in that mode before when it comes to construction and electricity and these sorts of things. So we've come a long way. And I've been at this a long time. This is Leviton today, like I just said, 119 years. We're about 7,000 employees and in 100 countries and manufacture 2.6 million things a day. We have 4 major business units, residential being one of our business units. Again, a lot of these words have been said today and they keep coming around and they're going to continue to come around. It's not like a warning. It's more like these words that are out there, being smart, smart home. How do I get started in that area? I as a builder, You might be saying, I feel like I need to do something in smart home. I don't really know how to get there or what that is or how to, not add loads of cost or complexity to a build and just sort of keep everything in the lane that we're comfortable in while, giving home buyers what they want. And they probably continually ask you about. But, so we need some innovative ways to do that. Leviton, a little pitchy here, but we won't compromise electrical safety in anything we do. Then the smart piece rolls in and keep going back to the 119 years. You can trust us for what are we after? What do we want to help you guys, help folks accomplish? Then let's build better homes. Let's build efficient homes. And Angela did a great job laying out ways to become efficient, whether that be in construction when we talk about electrical services or we talk about what's going on inside the home in terms of energy distribution. And, I feel like I get a t-shirt that says you need to start thinking about it, right? It's like you keep saying it. But that power's, it's there when you flip a light switch and look who's talking sitting here. But
the good news for us, though, is that resiliency and self-sufficiency are issues that have raised dramatically in the minds of our consumers. Yeah, look, I'm not trying to just pick on Texas, but that horrible winter event raised the consciousness of how am I going to survive, right? I need to have some kind of alternative method to keep my home going. You look at the California, has experienced all kinds of rolling blackouts, brownouts, et cetera, because Santa Ana winds and the power company being sued, so they cut the power off now so that they don't have the down lines. We've got natural disaster problems and, places like, Western North Carolina, they're not supposed to have these kinds of issues, right? So we're seeing this all over. So consumers are nervous, right, about the reliability of the grid and power and making sure that their homes. So we can play to that. I think that's the good news. And the fact is the current housing stock, the used homes that we sell against, never contemplated this. Right. They had simple electrical needs and they assumed that it would always have power, right? Yeah. And we can play to kind of a new reality. And the good news is we're not having to convince consumers of that. All of the survey instruments show that consumers are worried about it. So we can play right to a concern that they have and be able to then extract those dollars from the market.
That one event in Texas, you can actually go in and see energy storage sales just went through the roof months after that happened just from Texas alone.
Yeah. You're right. A lot of those devices are there, the box in the yard or whatever it is, because of some event that occurred, and that's the reactionary side of it. So we're trying to pivot that thought process into the being proactive piece, which is a struggle for all of us in our daily lives. We get that, but at the same time, definitely shifting.
And the moment we can show that box isn't just an added cost, but it's an income driver, then we've got something really interesting for consumers. Yeah.
So how do we think about taking a step in the right direction with regard to all this stuff? Again, we don't want you to walk out of here today going, oh my gosh, I got to start thinking about this. What am I going to do?
No, we do want them walking out of here.
Okay, we want
Let's rewind that. Yeah. Yes, we want you walking out of here. Go, no, I got to think about this and do something different.
We want them to be happily thinking about that.
Okay.
Not in a burdensome fashion, right? We want you to be able to.
We want you skipping out of here. Okay. Oh, good. I get to think about electrical systems. Okay.
Yeah. Wait, is it just us that thinks about this every day? Is that what you're saying? So, but again, homeowners, requirements, strong words, things that homeowners want, things that homeowners, certainly need to be thinking about. We could have beaten that horse up pretty good. Stay connected, right? Your home buyers want that. Everything is connected these days, and the shift is definitely on from the people who want less connected things to people that want to be connected, right? Just as time goes along, that shift is natural.
And I would say too, we're at a pretty good time. Let me do the analogy this way. Remember when Mac and PC couldn't play nice together? Yeah. And we had the same thing in the technology field with all the communication protocols, all different. Nothing could play, nothing could talk to it, and we've worked through a lot of that.
Our light bulbs didn't even talk to our switches.
Yes.
Okay, let's get down. Okay, that became the moment we got to solve this problem.
So the challenge of Frankensteining various components and trying to get them to work is pretty much gone away. So it's a good time to pursue a lot of strategies.
No
Well
question.
said.
Absolutely. And, systems in the home, components in the home that allow you to be prepared for things as they change, right? So we need scalable systems. Jump in with both feet, jump in the shallow end, jump in the deep end if you want. I mean,
Just get wet.
yeah, just get wet somehow. Yeah, absolutely. And then bring it all together so it all plays nicely together, which is your point about the Mac and the PC, and get that whole home experience going, just to again have more electrical safety, be efficient. But what's next, right? So good, better, best packages, homeowner choices. Again, expand now. Start thinking about it now, and be ready as needs or wants arrive or arise. Future ready now. Future proof is a little strong in my book. How do we do that? So at Leviton, we do it. We help you with that in terms of smart home, and then all the way down through some energy management type type
I mean,
applications.
this is a really cool product. Have you seen this before?
Oh, we're interested.
Okay, I mean, it's really cool, right? Because this allows you to say, look, I'm going to put like one smart thing in your home. I'm not going to spend $1,500 or $2,000 or whatever it is. I'm going to put one teeny little smart thing in your home for a few bucks.
But guess what you can do?
They can then swap out whenever they want without an electrician. You don't have to bring electricians. They can swap out all the smart devices, smart plugs, smart lights, things that they want to do over time. That's a cool, it's kind of a
and
cool
add
product.
to it.
And add to it.
Yeah.
I think that's a neat product.
So where we're going with this idea, right? When we talk about smart home or lighting control, or giving home buyers what they want, when also maintaining low costs of construction and so forth. You're giving folks the ability to expand as they grow, as their lifestyles change, as technologies change. We really need a way to do that. I mean, things go. Again, it hurts me a little bit to say this based on my job, but things can go a little stale electrically within the home pretty quickly, certainly at the wall box device level and at the panel level, frankly. I mean, you moved in and that thing was cool when I moved in here 5 years ago. We used to say that thing was cool 20 years ago and it's still cool, but now we say that thing that I moved in 2 years ago, 3 years ago is no longer, living up to what I hoped it would do. So things evolve, and that's the name of that platform. And I do realize a lot of folks in this room came by our booth and were in our sessions yesterday and saw that platform. Again, I won't belabor this, but in upgrading and taking something that was strictly looked at as a cost to build or a cost adder to your home and turning that into a profit model for you folks is our goal there. A lot of what Angela touched on here is similar messaging, of course. Making homes more efficient and resilient. We want to again gain you some efficiencies during the or your trade some efficiencies during the construction process to speed you up, speed them up, and lay down some infrastructure with a Leviton load center that allows for easy upgrading as you're in the home to some smart products. I think my next slide says it, but I'll say it now. Leviton, we get the word smart panel. People go, "Hey, Leviton, the smart panel. Leviton, the smart panel." I'm like, man, we don't have a smart panel. You know what I mean? We don't have one.
It's smart circuit breaker.
Yeah, we have smart breakers that can optionally be added into a traditional panel. So
that's a big difference. Good or bad, right? There are some other new products out on the market which you might be aware of that start with S, and it's a different system, right? And maybe not as upgradable, or can't be roughed in the same way as the trades are, typically rough them in. So a builder's got to make a decision, right, as to what you want to work with.
Yeah. And that's where, when it turns out to, you have to start thinking about doing something, right? With us, we're more or less in the construction phase, is get, in place of that panel that's going in now, just put this panel in. That's just step one. You see some reasons there to do it. We talk about bus structure and power structure and things like that. And we talk, again, it was talked about earlier, but people coming up to us going, help me not install a 400 amp service, right? So there's certainly some ways you can do that. Again, this is some stuff that was touched on earlier, but you see, different sources. We're a programmable system to allow with, again, but scale it as you go. With us, I mean, this will probably not the greatest selling moment of my career right now, I'll say, but put it in and then scale it as you need it. So with our system, it's get the panel in just at the electrical contractor level now, and scale it as you need it, circuit by circuit. If you choose to never do it, it's the part that wasn't going to be my funnest moment. You don't have to.
But it does make a nice ramp for a builder. It allows them to do things without spending a lot of money. That gives the consumer the ability to progress and over time,
Yeah.
change the capabilities of their home.
Yeah, and that slow ramp is kind of what we're talking about, based on different geographies and different ideas that are out there. And like you said, a lot of it's Roger loves code driven, and then some moving when you have to. So, we're after a smarter home is a better home. Most people know that. Most people think that, and more people think that today than did 5 years ago, and 2 years ago, and 10 years ago, certainly. So, we want to be a ramp for you. I like that. I'm going to start using that. Ramp.
See,
It's gonna
there
be
you
a
go.
ramp for you
So
to get to that.
we've got a lot of feedback from you during the conversation, but wrap, we're kind of out of time. But I'd like to spend 2 minutes talk about your company's strategy in this space. You're known as a very progressive builder, right? You know that, I think, but everybody else kind of knows that, at least in the state of Texas. That you're a pretty progressive builder. What steps did you take first? Because it is a balance, cost, your cost, competition, all this kind of stuff, meeting customer expectations, new codes, all that. What steps did you take, and what steps are you kind of looking at in a way kind of next? Like what's to the next 24 months in your kind of at least thought process to get your hands around?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I'll say that we start anything, any product, any process, any discipline with ROI. What is the
how unusual for a builder. Let me write
that. Add that to your list.
Boy, we've learned stuff this morning.
But that's tempered with aesthetics and beauty and technology, and there may be the need to haves and nice to haves and want to haves, and wants our blue sky, and maybe work backwards at times. But it's really a matter of identifying where we want to go, what the competition's doing. We always want to know that. Builders don't ever want to be the pioneer. Typically, they don't want to take the arrows. So let some other builder try a new thing first, and then we'll see how it works. That's kind of the nature of the beast. But we watch stuff on the coasts because typically it doesn't matter if it's apparel or construction or technology. It starts on the coast and then comes to the inside of the states. But I would say with anything that we've talked about today, we have to really understand our demographics, because if there's an interest in technology, it varies in age groups and demographics. Talking about the entertainment piece, well, yeah, for our second tier move up buyers or some luxury stuff in Florida we've got, that's still maybe all they care about. So we're not really probably going to pursue a lot of other fancy, neat stuff that they're going to get overwhelmed with in the house anyway. However, on our first time buyer product, they're coming from typically apartments that were pretty tricked out. And so their expectations a little different.
That really has changed a lot of builder expectations as multifamily, really increased the capability of multifamily living. It did kind of change the standard that entry level it used to be entry level buyers, we're going to put nothing in there. But now you're downgrading into a home, and nobody wants to downgrade into their home.
Yeah. Now there's still the piece of excitement of, we get to buy a home.
Yeah.
And so that kind of can temper that a little bit at times. But by and large, yeah, they want what they came from and what they've experienced in their environments growing up and through school and college, and the instant gratification and instant accessibility to information, technology, voice activated, order everything on my phone, get my food delivered, the whole bit. So we watch that from a demographic standpoint. That's kind of how we approach. And then as with anything, we'll start phasing in. Typically, you're going to do it in a community or a certain part of town, that kind of stuff, and then roll out. One, we got to have the trade base that can handle it, supply chain, make sure that's stable and intact. So we evaluate with a little trepidation's too strong, but cautiousness, making sure that it's going to really be able to be effective and not cause a breakdown in the process. Our long-term play, to your final point, to wrap it up, is a little hard to answer, simply because we're all watching what's going on in the market right now. And everybody's a little nervous. So yes, we know we're going to have to get into the arena of power generation, solar, wind, battery storage. We want to on certain products anyway, but it's going to come. It's going to be mandated probably sooner rather than later. It's going to be in the code cycles. So we're trying to get in front of that and it's going to be 100%.
Tell you the one commitment I'm going to make. I'm going to introduce you to this EPP software group.
Yes,
Because
like to.
if you've got a dedicated person, to really focused on this kind of stuff, you build so many homes, it could be
Yeah.
a really interesting thing for the future to look at a revenue enhancement, not only for you as a company, but also for your owners.
Yeah,
So that might be something interesting. I'd love to get your opinion on it. That'd be really great. Thank you so much. I'm going to see you guys back here at lunch. Thanks to our panel for sharing everything.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you very much. My pleasure.